Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, your host here at Crimes Untold. Sorry, I'm a little bit higher than normal. So today, we're going to be talking about something infamous that happened before Columbine. It's actually the starting point of a lot of these school shootings that were happening in the late 90s. And today we're going to be talking about Luke Woodham and the Pearl High School shootings. So on October 1st of 1997 in Pearl, Mississippi, 16-year-old Luke Woodham would kill 2 of his peers as well as injuring 7 others at Pearl High School. So this would be the same day he fatally bludgeoned his mother to death as well. On October 1st of 1997, Luke Woodham was arrested along with 6 other students. These 6 other students are Marshall Grant Boyette Jr., who's 18, Donald P. Brooks II, who is 17, Wesley Brownell, who's 17, Delbert Shaw, who's 16, Justin Sledge, who's 16, and Daniel Thompson, who's 16. Now, I bet you're wondering as to why I'm also bringing these 6 others in with Luke Woodham. Well, these 7 boys together were friends and were believed to be in this weird clique where they were all interested in Nietzsche and Latin. I'll put that word on the screen. So I believe it's Nietzsche, is Friedrich Nietzsche, who was a German philosopher, poet, and a composer. So he was really known for his views of Christian morality and his master-slave morality, or his nihilism, that is a response to the affirmation of life. So it's such strange views for these boys in a town such as Pearl, Mississippi. When I was reading about it, I was just like, wow, this is really I didn't know how to handle it at first. And then I'll talk about my reaction to his confession video as well after I kind of describe what has happened and what happens with him as well. So I want you to remember this exact religious type thing because it comes up in a first-hand account of the day of the shooting. So on the days that these boys were arrested, it was over the course of a 2-day period. They were taken from their classes and they were charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Luke is the only one that would be charged in connection to the death of the 2 students and his mother, plus wounding 7 people. So these arrests terrified the community and it left them stunned. But let's talk about the day of the murders. So on October 1st of 1997, Luke Woodham would stab and bludgeon his mother to death. Now, his mother, Mary Ann Woodham, was getting ready to jog that morning when she was killed. Later, when he was asked about his actions in his mother's death, he would state that he didn't know what happened and couldn't recall what he had done to his mother. But during his admission/confession with the police, he would admit that he was enraged due to his mother and how she blamed him constantly for his father leaving, and that he's the reason why her and her husband's marriage ended. So after he killed her, he grabbed a hunting rifle, which is a Marlin .336 rifle, and got into his mother's Toyota Tercel. This also is in different correspondence the car that he's in. One said it was a Corsica, one said it was a Cavalier, and the main one that I got a lot of my information from said it was a Toyota Tercel. So that key piece of information is different in each thing. So I want you to know that as well. If anybody is just like, oh, that's not the car he was driving, la 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 la. There's 3 different types of cars that was pointed out in different correspondence. So he got into his mother's Toyota Tercel and he drove to school. Now, Luke didn't have his license and he didn't really know how to drive. So yeah, he was able to conceal the rifle that he had with his trench coat, and that he was wearing after he went inside, and he ended up giving his manifesto to a fellow student, which is Justin Sledge. So the other thing I want you to know is, just a side note, that this shooting is what would be the first of many deadly shootings, mass shootings, we would see over the media in the years to come, and Columbine would happen 2 years after this. So the manifesto that he gave to Justin was filled with poetry, his grievances he had against people, and also his last will and testament. After this small interaction he has with Justin, Justin then would go to the library and hide with these documents while Luke would start his crimes. Luke would walk past the band director, Jeff Cannon, who was on duty to watch the Commons, and he basically was out there to make sure there was no fights or anything like that. But as Luke passed Jeff Cannon thought it was kind of off that Luke was wearing a long blue trench coat due to the fact that it was a 70-degree day and there was no need for a coat. I mean, I don't know exactly how Mississippi weather is, but what I watched, they said that it was a slightly humid day, so, I mean, I understand why Jeff Cannon thought that. After that initial thought, he just kind of thought it was because it's the end of the 9 Inch Nails and Nirvana grunge scene era, which that is actual words, which I thought was interesting. I'll have my my reference links to all these different correspondents that I got my information from down in the description box. But that was something that was part of an interview with Jeff Cannon. So, in retrospect, Luke is a 16-year-old chubby boy with short brown hair, he wore glasses, and he's wearing a trench coat on a warm day. I mean, I have alarm bells going off just at that description, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the post start of the mass shootings era where stuff like that kind of like sets off, hey, something's wrong, something's not right here. But that's my personal opinion when it comes to this. Other people, their opinion may differ. But so right before Luke would start his rampage, he gave this message to Justin. So right before Justin went to the library. So Luke would say, I am not insane, I am angry. I killed because people like me are mistreated every day. I did this to show society, push us and we will push back. All throughout my life, I was ridiculed, always beaten, always hated. Can you, society, truly blame me for what I do? Yes, you will. It was not a cry for attention. It was not a cry for help. It was a scream in sheer agony, saying that if you can't pry your eyes open, if I can't do it through pacifism, if I can't show you through the displaying of intelligence, then I will do it with a bullet. At 8:06 a.m., the first shot was heard. Jeff Cannon thought it was somebody that was actually in the ROTC program who could have accidentally fired their gun. But actually, this was when he shot Christina Menefree in the neck. Luke and Christina dated for about a month, just a year prior, and her death was instantaneous. When Luke and Christina dated, he had wrote her a note saying that his life began after he met her. Her father also felt very sorry for him because he didn't have any friends, or any real friends that he knew of. So after he shot Christina, Jeff Cannon would look around for where the shot came from, and that's when he saw Luke. This is when panic would rise at Pearl High School. He knew exactly what the situation was. That's when he told everyone around him to run and hide. Luke then would see Lydia Dew, who was next to Christina. She tried to get away, but Luke aimed and shot her in the back. Luke would later admit that he didn't understand or actually know why he shot Lydia Dew, because she was a nice girl who was like a ray of sunshine and joy. Lydia lived for a period of time in which a fellow teacher would try and help her, but she would ultimately die due to her injuries. After the initial shooting, he would then continue his shooting assaults. He would shoot at Stephanie Wiggins. She was hit in the hip, of which would cause it to shatter. Jerry Safely was hit in the leg while he was trying to protect his girlfriend. The odd thing about this is that Luke came over to him and said he was sorry for shooting him, and basically said, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. Weird, right? It's believed that Luke thought this was the mayor's son, of whom he wanted to kill for shock value. This is in his manifesto. That part is in his manifesto. Alan Westbrook was attempting to flee when he tripped, and Luke would catch up to him and shoot him multiple times in the back. Jeff Cannon said that Alan's injuries looked like somebody was trying to debone a deer. That's how rough Alan's back looked. Thankfully, though, Alan would survive due to Luke missing his vertebra just by a very small margin, less than an inch. Most of the rounds that Luke shot would hit the ground and they would ricochet, so basically it was like projectiles or stray projectiles. There were people everywhere, bleeding everywhere. And finally, Luke's rifle jammed. and he would give up after trying to fix his rifle. He then would end up running out of the school. Jeff Cannon would end up following the trail of blood in the commons, of which he would lead to the hall where Band was. This is where he saw 3 of his students had been hit. So the assistant principal, Joel Myrick, ran to his truck and got his .45 semi-automatic handgun when he saw Luke trying to flee the scene. He would shout at him to stop, but no avail. That is when another student would obstruct Luke's path. So this student obstructs his path because Luke got in his car and he was trying to get away. And when this student obstructed the path, this is when Luke tried to veer around the car. And when he was driving in the grass, he ended up getting stuck. So this is when Myrick would then catch up to Luke and ordered him out of the vehicle. And he would detain him until the authorities would arrive. So while he was detained, he had Luke on the ground and his foot is on his neck. And when Myrick's looking at him, Luke would reiterate what he said to him just a few nights prior. He would say, "I'm the one that gave you a discount on pizza the other night." Myrick would simply just reply with disgust after, looking at him and seeing him. "What? Why did you do this to my kids?" Luke would respond with, "I've been wronged. The world wronged me and I just couldn't take it anymore." Now, to give some more context to that, Luke worked for Domino's at the time, and he gave his assistant principal a discount on pizza. That's what he meant by that. Back to the other boys. So with their arrest as well, this happened because they formed a group, or Luke was invited to join a group that they were part of, which is called Croth. Now, Croth is thought to have made the plans to commit the Pearl High School shootings. These plans included Luke being the gunman, which obviously happened. So with the indictments of conspiracy to commit murder, in the affidavits, it includes that the murder was a means of accomplishing goals that the group had in its belief systems. It also would come out that Luke would admit to following Satanism and that he was promised, with the help of black magic, that he would get his ex-girlfriend back, which kind of reminds me of the Joey Fisher murder because of everything with Maria and stuff like that with the black magic. And yeah, so weird. Anywho, Luke was charged with 3 counts of murder and aggravated assault. He would enter a plea of not guilty. So the charges for his mother's murder and the murders pertaining to the school shooting, they would be tried separately. And they wanted to do that because obviously they happened at separate times and separate places. So within both trials, his lawyer would argue that he was insane during both times of murder, but it would be rejected. He would be sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his mother on June 5th of 1998. His second trial then would start just 7 days later on June 12th of 1998. His reason of insanity plea would be rejected yet again, and he would be given 2 additional life sentences for the murders of Christina Menefree and Lydia Dew. He then would be given 7 20-year sentences for attempted murder of the 7 others he wounded. He is currently serving 3 life sentences with an additional 140 years in prison. But the thing that kills me about this is that he will be eligible for parole in 2046 when he is 65 years old. This case is extremely interesting. One, due to it being one of the first school shootings that would be highly publicized within the later half of the 90s. And like I said, it would be the first of many to happen in the late 90s. So I watched his confession video, and he's such a big guy. He's a husky, broad, tall guy. And I went to school with guys that were similar size, and it just... Sometimes, now maybe it's just me, but sometimes you see people and you think, hey, there's something off about them. When you watch that confession video, I'll link it down below. It is on YouTube, or I should say it is here on YouTube. It's so bizarre because within the first 5 minutes, if I remember correctly, he just blubbers like a little baby. And when he talks so nonchalant about how he kills these people. Just so nonchalant. And it grosses me out. How just it's like kind of like an I don't give a fuck attitude that he has, where he doesn't care about what he's done. And even when the cop is talking to him, he's very belligerent when he talks to the cop. And it irks me the wrong way. I've watched a lot of confession videos with people, but his is really strange. Like, not even Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy's confession, like, irked me. Robert Hanson's irked me, but not in the same way that this dude's did. Like, and Robert Hanson was a fucked up dude. I'll put that in a card above. I covered him. But Luke Woodham takes the cake. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. I would love to know. That, my friends, is the case of Luke Woodham and the Pearl High School shootings, and I will see you guys in my next video.